So the project really started 6 or 7 years ago when I was commissioned by the Shire Hall Gallery to make some work inspired by their building. And I actually chose to work with photographs of women criminals that they had on display outside the courtroom as my source inspiration. The photos chose me rather than me choosing them. I couldn't resist them. They were so intriguing and so fascinating that I kind of kept coming back to them. The photograph albums themselves in the record office were a real revelation, actually, when I first saw them. I'd only ever seen scans of the photographs. I hadn't seen the original albums. And they're great, big, heavy albums with leather bindings. They've got marbled end papers that are absolutely beautiful and really, really fascinating. So that kind of materiality, the textures and the feelings of those photo albums, again, have kind of filtered in as inspiration, and I'm kind of using elements of those in digital design work that I've been doing over the course of the project as well. So I've been working with the archivists and going through what it turned out to be 9 photograph albums of prisoner photographs from Stafford Prison. I've ended up with, in total, over 500 photographs of women. I started off cataloguing them, going through, photographing each individual one, getting their name and the details. We've got some research about the prison. We've looked into the history of photography and prison photography. We've looked into clothing history. So building up a much more broad and interesting story rather than just the photograph. A major part of the project is to work with the team of volunteers. So I recruited a team of 8 volunteers to work with me at the record office doing research. One of the issues we've been exploring is how we present and talk about these women, because I get asked a lot, were they murderers, what their scandalous stories, and they're really not. This prison held prisoners who were convicted of petty crimes, so they're mostly convicted of theft. And I think those kind of stories and thinking about and talking about these women and their lives has been a really important aspect of the project, both with the research volunteers and out in the community groups and other organisations that I've been talking to kind of get people to think about these women as real, struggling, desperate people rather than glamorous criminals, because they're really not. Regardless of their crimes, I have become quite attached to some of them. Some who appear regularly, so I've got several photographs of them over a number of years or even decades. It's really important to me that the project kind of celebrates these women as real women, as human beings, and that we respect their stories and we respect their lives. What I've really loved about this project is that I've been able to work with other people, because I do work on my own a lot as an artist in my own studio, doing my own thing. And most of what I've done on this project has been in collaboration, and it's been about opening up stories of other people to hundreds and thousands of other people and kind of sharing those stories. Digital printing has been a big part of this new project. Alongside screen printing and cyanotype printing, I wanted to use techniques outside of my normal hand stitch, but I also wanted techniques that were related in some way to photography, because photographs obviously are the main source. Although I've worked a lot with information and data, it always comes back to the photographs. I think the way that I work often with slow stitch, hand embroidery, patchwork, which is painstaking, it's slow, it's time consuming. It's very thoughtful, so as I'm working on these pieces and I'm stitching into photographs of these women, I'm thinking about their lives and kind of remembering them as people. But also that kind of act of doing something very slow, I have the luxury and the privilege that I can do that. They were doing needlework in prison as part of their prison labour and wouldn't have had the same experience of it. It's very much a local story. It's about Stafford and Staffordshire, but it's a national, international story. There's a lot of similarities with similar collections of other photographs from prisons, and it's an enormous, invaluable resource of photographs of working class women from the late 19th and early 20th century that we wouldn't otherwise have. Most of these women living on the edges of society, if they hadn't been criminalised and sent to prison and been photographed on release, we wouldn't have any photographs of them, and they would not exist. Women who didn't commit crimes or weren't convicted of crimes may not have ever been photographed. And we've got a kind of snapshot of real people in real life who ended up in this situation, but that's given us an incredible record to be able to then look back and think about how the world has changed and not.